Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Gordon, and tonight is episode 25. And, I was trying to think about what I wanted to talk to you tonight about. It's been an interesting week, a lot of growth this week. And I wanted to share, first of all, I hope everybody is having a wonderful week. And I wanted to share a story. I'm a caregiver for my mother, who's 87. And she's still walking. She has good mobility, but once in a while she gets scared with her walking. And one morning it was a little windy out, and I was trying to encourage her to go up to the senior center to get some exercise. She takes a chair yoga class there. And she opened up the front door, and the wind really scared her. And I put on my cheerleading hat and I said, "Come on, Mom, you can do it. You'll be fine." And, I did all the positive affirmations you can think of to get her in the car and to get her up the street. And she was legitimately scared. And I did manage to get her in the car. We drove up the street to the cheer center, and she didn't want to get out of the car. When I opened up the door, the wind was gusting and she was scared. And I said, "You know what, Mom? Let's just take a ride, and you don't have to go today." And I could see the relief in her face. And she just looked at me and she smiled and she said, "Thank you." And it warmed my heart because I saw the fear of falling, the fear of just losing confidence as you get older. And I, it just, it dawned on me to think about fear and how do we push through it? How do we know that we can push through it? And how do we know when to back down a little bit and not push so hard? So it reminds me of so many things. So when that happened this week, it for me, it just reminded me of so many things, like in the PhD journey. The fear of starting, well, first, excitement when I got accepted into the program, and then fear about, can I do it? Am I worthy enough? Am I good enough? How will I compare to my peers? And all those things that we go on in our head that sometimes the basis of it is fear. And so it reminded me of that. And then it just reminded me of growth and how fear can really hold us back from growing. I mean, I had a fear of being on this podcast and talking on my own. How can I do that? What am I going to say? Is what I say important? So, self-doubt wrapped up with fear. So it made me just think about it this week. And I'm on social media. I have a Facebook page for the PhD Journey Unplugged, and I post my writings there. So if you're on Facebook, if you want to follow me on the PhD Journey Unplugged Facebook page, you'll see some of the things I write about on there. I also posted it on my LinkedIn page. But I talked about fear, and I said, fear is real. And in the health promotion space, and as being a health promotion leader, I think it's important to talk about fear. I think it's important for us to understand when to push somebody or when to push ourselves and when to understand that it could be traumatic and that we need to pull back a little bit. It's very individualized fear. We all have fears. We all deal with them differently. And so it just got me thinking about it. And I was honest on my social media accounts about one of my fears, and it stems from my childhood, is a fire. It's just something I've carried from childhood into my adulthood. And I started to think about that because I've been reading my poetry since episode 22. And the reason I've been reading my poetry is because it was a big part of my PhD journey. It helped me balance my cognitive fatigue with something, a more creative outlet to think and to write. So as I thought about fear this week, I realized I actually wrote a poem about the fire's light, and I'm going to read that one tonight. And it's so interesting to me because it's based off of a friend of mine who loves to have fires at night, bonfires, and sits around those fires with friends. And they talk and they have great conversation. And for him and for his friends, it brings them peace. It's relaxing. It's a wonderful way to have connection. And I thought, that's so interesting to me because for me, fire is so fearful. And yet for this group of people and these friends, it's so relaxing. So I thought, that's growth. If I could get to a point where I can sit around a fire and enjoy it and have laughter and good times with friends, that would be growth. And it was interesting to me because when I wrote this poem, this is in 2025. Again, in the past several episodes, I've been showing you the poetry that I'm published in Delaware Bards. Started in 2022, 2023, 2024, and now 2025. And interesting enough, it parallels the episode. So episode 22 is year 2022 and all the way up to now, 2025. And I have a poem published in here called The Fire's Light. And it just reminded me this week when I saw the fear in my mom, and then I thought about my own fears and thought about what can I teach tonight and on my podcast and talk about fear. Ask you, what do you fear? Think about it a little bit. Can you grow through it? Is it so traumatic that you're so paralyzed by it? Or is there some way to grow through it? And it's just interesting to me because I thought about this poem and I thought, wow, I wrote this poem looking at fire in such a different way. And I think that's growth. And I think that's the point with anything in terms of our mental health and our physical health and our social emotional health is how do we push ourselves to grow? And fear is just one small part of it all, but I really wanted to talk to you about it tonight because it's something that I saw this week and was just on my heart. So here's tonight's poem, and if I have time, I might read one more tonight. So this one, like I said, is called The Fire's Light. Sitting by the fire's light, a special place held dear, the warmth of the moment, the flame shines near. In its soft glow, captivating to know, a quiet summer's night, it all feels so right. Gazing up upon the stars, soft shadows cast afar, as peace settles in and our souls to be found, blessings surround us, beauty abounds. With friends uniting around the open fire, we begin to share our innermost desires. Rejoicing once more, a closeness to adorn. As tired souls unwind, friends begin to share with honesty and openness as laughter fills the air. A world we long to stay, to flee our busy lives, where stories told and vulnerabilities unfold, a place to feel alive. In its soft light, fire brings a mystery as we contemplate tranquility, clarity, forgiveness too. Friends take time to hear and to love without fear. The fire brings to life the faces of true friends, all drawn to simple living, country life at its best, traveling the distance and the miles to ensure a night by the fire, the light, the allure. And I love that little poem because I would really love to get to a point where, and I wrote this based on hearing stories about friends sitting around a fire, a bonfire this past summer. I would really love to get to a point where I can enjoy it, where I can sit by it and not have fear. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. I promise. And that's growth. And that's what I wanted to share tonight based on my own personal experiences. This is not necessarily a research conversation or PhD conversation. This is just a real life conversation that I truly believe we all carry some types of fears in our hearts. And ask yourself, does it limit you from taking that step to do something you love to do? Does it limit you from living your life? Is it limiting you in any way? Perhaps it's not. But if it is, how do you take a step forward and work through the fear? Sometimes we can push ourselves through it. Sometimes we have to give ourselves some kindness and some grace and understanding that we're just not ready for it. And that's okay too. But I think that, this podcast has always been about a growth mindset. And I think and stepping outside your comfort zone, which does bring growth into your life. And honestly, for me, going back and getting my doctorate at age 53, that was fearful. That was a big step. I learned so much on that journey. And I'm here to tell you that if you're thinking about making some type of change in your life, and maybe there's some fear around it, retiring, changing jobs, leaving a bad relationship, moving, getting back into the gym, whatever it is that you are dealing with tonight, or when you listen to this podcast episode, don't be scared. You know, talk to people. Go talk to a counselor or a therapist or somebody that can help you, get the thoughts out of your mind and try to help you have some clarity in how you can move forward in your life. You know, Sometimes we have so much, and I know I'm guilty of it. I have so much going on in my mind. Sometimes it clutters, my thinking. And so I've learned to write things down, get it out of my mind, really helps me move forward towards taking actions to grow and to enjoy my life and do things, you know, things that perhaps I've had some fear in the past. So I'm going to challenge myself to sit by a bonfire one day. I'll come on here and share that I did that. And I would love to hear what you might challenge yourself to grow through. What kind of fears may be holding you back? So that was the first thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight. Now, the second is, and it's kind of along the same lines, but I was published in something called Eastern Sea Bards. And these were poets all up and down the East Coast in the United States. And there's hundreds of poems in here. This is a wonderful book. And again, I don't get anything from these except that I'm just honored to be in them. But they're all available on Amazon. And this one, well, I mean, the theme of this book was to talk about, to reflect on what it's like to live on the Eastern Shore of the the East Coast of the United States. And so I wrote a poem called The Ride. Now, this is interesting because in year 2025, that's when this was published, and the other poem I just read, I was working on my dissertation. I was wrapping up my study. I was preparing for final defense. I had a lot of fear in all those things. I ran a study for the first time. The final defense, that's kind of anybody's ever been through it or is in a doctoral program right now understands that's kind of a stressful, scary experience. So it's interesting because one morning I took the chance to go out on a bike ride with a friend. And I'm not a super strong cyclist, and I always have a little bit of fear about it. And I trust this one friend that I go out with. And so I went. I took a chance. I pushed myself outside my comfort zone. And boy, did it deliver. It was such a beautiful morning. I still remember it now. And I wrote this poem about it, and I'm going to read this to you now. And again, it's called The Ride. Up along the coast, one beautiful summer morning, a dew softens the horizon as the light fog blankets the coast. Birds singing rhythmic songs, spider webs woven, tapestries of order and calm. Smiles, friendship, and peacefulness abound. A reminder of how life can be lived in the moment with gratitude. Letting past trials slip away for something more nurturing harmonious once more. With nature as the guide, a quietness fills the heart. Reminders of our impermanence and the choices we can make and how to live our lives as the noise drifts away and the sounds of hope awaken, filling a newfound silence that satisfies in its own way, with faith and anticipation of the new beginnings where growth lights the way. Gosh, I mean, it's so interesting to me to go back and to read these poems and to think about the PhD journey and to think about all the challenges. And if you're working on your doctorate right now, you know it. You know what those are. You know, depending on where you are in that journey, will I finish it? How do I get through this class? I have so many things going in my life. How do I meet this deadline? Will I pass my comprehensive exam? What is my dissertation research topic going to be? How am I going to run my research study? What type of research study am I gonna do? Am I going to do a quantitative study, a qualitative study, a mixed method study? How am I going to write 5 chapters? How am I going to get ready for my final defense? How am I going to pass my final defense? You know, when is my dissertation going to be published? How is it going to be published? You know, there's so many pieces to it. There's so many things that we can be fearful about in that process. And my best advice, if you're listening to this podcast and you are in a doctoral program, one step at a time. Okay? One step at a time. You know you're working towards the finish line. You know you're working towards a goal, but you can't think about all of it at once. You can lay out a system. You can lay out the framework. You can lay out a path forward, and you can take one step at a time and keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. That is a message for anybody, whether you're getting your doctorate, whether you are any goals that you're setting in your life, health goals, academic goals, professional goals, personal goals, one step at a time. And consistency with it, and discipline. So, you know, what gives me the expertise to sit here and talk to you on this podcast? I had every reason to quit my doctoral program. I really did. I had things in my life, and at some point in time, I will talk about them, but things in my life external to me that derailed me on a daily basis. Really. I had every reason to quit, and I didn't. And I didn't. I stayed focused and I just kept moving forward. And it's funny because I did give the commencement speech at graduation this past May. And one of the things I did say, and I've mentioned on the past podcast, is I said, when you feel like quitting something, take a nap. You're most likely tired. It's amazing how fatigue can make everything, seem more than bigger than it really is. And even fear. I mean, everything, fear and, the negative thoughts, okay? The things that tell you that you can't move forward, that you can't get through something, that you can't meet a goal. A lot of times it's fear. Excuse me, a lot of times it's fatigue, okay? A lot of times we're tired. We lose confidence when we're tired. Everything seems bigger, everything seems worse, everything seems not manageable, too big, too overwhelming when we're tired. So the first thing I would recommend based on my experiences is make sure you're getting really good rest. The second thing that I learned in my doctoral journey that helped me get through it was exercise. Whatever it is for you. For me, I went to the pool all the time at night, and I just went tonight and I swam and I allowed myself to use that time to relax my mind, to just to relax, really, just to relax, to unwind from the day. Some people like to go early in the morning. Some people have the opportunity to go in the middle of the day. I mean, whenever you can go, Physical activity will help you overcome things like fears, will help you overcome anxiety, will make you feel better. I won't get into the physiological benefits of it, and maybe I will do that on one episode. But I mean, there are things that go on physiologically in your brain, in your cardiovascular system that really make you feel better. Exercise and oxygen and, all the wonderful chemicals that make you feel better and also make you healthier. So for me, physical activity was really important, especially after I kind of lost my health in the journey. I had to reclaim it. What else really helped? Well, learning how to set boundaries and learning how to say no. That was a hard one, right? That didn't feel comfortable for me. So that is my advice to you. If you're trying to work towards some goal in your life, you might have to say no once in a while so you can stay focused on that goal. You can't do everything. You can't do everything all at once. We only have so much energy in a day, right? Some people have much higher energy and function on a much higher vibe and frequency than other people. Some people move a little bit slower, but at the end of the day, we all have a certain amount of energy. I mean, we're all unique. And so you got to figure out how to focus that energy on your goals. I'll be honest with you, tonight I got home from the pool. It's late. It's been a busy day. I wasn't so sure I wanted to record tonight. I was tired. And I thought, you know what? I said I'd be here tonight. If you happen to listen to the last episode, I said I'd be here in midweek, and I owed it to you to be here tonight. And I'm actually really glad I'm here tonight. I've gained some more confidence in speaking to you on my own. I hope I'm teaching you some things that you can use and think about in your life. And yeah, I honestly, I feel very um, blessed and grateful to have this platform to speak with you. So those are the things I would say: rest, physical activity, setting boundaries, nutrition. I mean, I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian, so I'm not going to give specific nutritional advice. But we all know if we eat, junk in, the body's going to feel junky, right? And if you're trying to work towards some goals and you need to think clearly and you need to get rid of all the fear and the anxiety and the depression and the burnout and all these things that tell us, and or just the fatigue and all these things that just keep us, hold us back. You want to you want to feed your body. You want to nourish your body. You want to look at it as, I hate to say it because we're not machines, we're humans and we have emotions. But you want to view yourself maybe as, how do you make it how can you function the most efficiently, you know, as like a machine, I guess I would say. Strength and endurance and putting good stuff in your body. We have one body, right? And we get to choose what we put in it. And you'd be surprised how much good nutrition can impact your mood, your productivity, and everything else, it can really hold you back in terms of achieving your goals. Um, and what else would I say as far as to give you some advice in terms of moving towards your goals? I mean, I guess for me, um, finding the space to be successful, that was really important. Finding a space. For me, a lot of times working at home did not give me the opportunity to really have quiet time to focus. So I went to the library and I found a space in the library and made a nice connection there. And the head librarian gave me, let me go into a space that was even more quiet than the general area for the library. So I would say find a space. If your goals are something where you need to sit quietly and think, maybe write or read, go find a quiet space or create, go find a quiet space somewhere. Set yourself up for success. Go do it. Don't be fearful. Go do it. Go find it. It's very liberating. When I think about it, and I think about what I'm talking to you about tonight, it's liberating to grow. It's liberating to gain confidence. Um, it's just, and I will say, a very big part of all of this is that as you grow, you help other people grow, right? They see you. They watch you. People observe each other. They see you got something good going, and they'll ask, what are you doing? You look like you've changed. You whatever, if you're losing weight or you're gaining confidence and, whatever it is. People start to see that and they have questions because they ultimately, I think most people want to be successful. They want to feel good and they want to enjoy life. So that's my message tonight. It all started with watching my sweet mom struggle with aging, but never give up. She is tough and she will never give up, but she has to make peace with some of the things as you age, which we all do. So, watching that, I don't know if you have an older parent that you take care of. Sometimes that's hard to watch too, to see the fears. And as you age, fear of falling is real. That's really was the premise for tonight's conversation. And just, think about how these poems kind of were woven into that. And I think that's interesting because in 2025, I had a lot of fear. How am I going to finish up? What's that going to look like? Am I going to finish in time? All these types of things, all these thoughts that go through your mind. So whatever you're going through today, or when you listen to this podcast, have confidence in yourself, okay? Know that you really truly can do anything you put your heart to. We really can. We live in a wonderful country that gives us so many opportunities to grow and to succeed. We're all more connected than we even realize. I say that all the time. Asking for help, it's amazing, Sometimes it really, I don't know if you're like me, if you're stubborn, but sometimes just asking for help, it can really change your life. So that's it. I hope everybody enjoys this midweek. I guess it's a little powwow talk. I'm just finding my voice on this podcast as I continue to move forward. I'm so grateful to have this platform. I'll be back on towards the end of the week. I have just a few more poems to read, and I will move on and finish the poetry journey during the PhD journey. So I hope you've enjoyed them. Maybe it's inspired you to write some poetry yourself. Go do it. Go be creative. Go do whatever your heart desires, okay? Life doesn't wait for anybody. I'm always drawn to songs about the river or things I read about the river. And I've been thinking about why. Why am I drawn to all the stuff that talks about the river? And you know why? Because just like the river, once the time's gone, it's gone. It's always flowing forward, right? So go do the things that are on your heart. Go enjoy your life. Go reclaim your health, excuse me. Go take care of yourself. And let's all spread some love and some kindness in this world, okay? There's a lot of things going on in the world tonight. And let's just be kind to one another as we continue to grow and strive for the best health that we possibly can. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. I will check in later in the week and feel free to follow me on my Facebook page, the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. Comment. Let me know how I'm doing. I'm new at this, so let me know. A lot of podcasters out there, a lot of really good podcasters out there, a lot of great information. My goodness, we have so much good information. Peter Attia, Huberman Lab. I mean, so many, I can't even begin to tell you, and I don't know what you're listening to, but there's a lot of really good voices out there to learn and to continue to learn and learn how to take care of yourself and take care of your health. All right. Thank you. Good night. God bless. I appreciate you all. All right. Bye-bye.